Welcome everybody, Kelly here from KB Auto Tech and Adventure. Today we're in my shop and I have my brand new 2020 Toyota Tacoma Off-Road Premium. Super excited, we're going to get doing a lift, wheels and tires. So I chose to go with a Dobinson suspension, and anyways, I'm going to show you what it takes to get that swapped out today. So anyways, without further delay, let's get going. Well, I got the vehicle lifted in the air and we got the wheels taken off. If you didn't happen to catch the video, I did just recently where we put these off-road wheels on a 3rd gen 4Runner. I'm gonna link that up into the description here. So let's go ahead and let's get started on the front suspension. Let's take a quick look at all the front suspension. Here we have the front strut assemblies. Part number is right here. We got our coil springs as well. Front diff drop spacers and bolts, and the skid plate spacers and bolts. And here's the hardware, bushings, U-bolts, and spacers that we're going to need for the rear leaf springs. Some rear shocks, of course. Here's the rear leaf springs. And a quick look at the SBC upper control arms. Alright, here we go. So you'll want to undo the sway bar and link nuts on both sides to 17 millimeter. Go ahead and tap the steering knuckle at the flat bossed area to pop the end link free. Go ahead and do this on both sides and swing the sway bar out of your way. Next, I'm going to pop the clips out of the splash shields. You're going to want to use some sort of door panel tool or clip tool and just pop those out from behind and move those out of the way. Now we'll remove the retaining clip for the upper ball joint nut. Then we will remove the nut, and with a hammer we will strike the steering knuckle on the bossed area just to the right side there to free up the upper ball joint. Remove the 10mm nut for the ABS wire hold down bracket, and be sure once it's all free that you don't let it tug or pull on that wire too hard. You don't want to damage it. This next step you may or may not have to do it depending on the type of kit that you've ordered. I've chosen to go with some SPC upper control arms, so we're going to go ahead and need to change this out. First thing we're going to do is loosen the main bolt that goes all the way through the upper control arm. Unfortunately, here comes a little bit of the tricky spot. This bolt just does not pull out. Unfortunately, the body is in the way and we are going to need to bend this or pry it out of the way so we can make room. But I do have a little bit of a trick. First, let's go ahead and remove these clips. Just use a little bit of a screwdriver and unclip the harness from the body and push them out of the way. I didn't realize here that I had my camera zoomed in just a little bit too close, but what I'm about to do here is I have a wood block just below on the frame here, and I'm just using it as a lever and I'm prying the body away. I've done it a slightly different way before where I've used an adjustable wrench and slid it over there and bent that up. I'll actually just link another lift video I did on another Tacoma, and I'll put that up in the description here above. We now have a reasonable amount of room, but we could use a little bit more, and I'll show you something that you can do if you want to. Now what I'm about to do here isn't 100% necessary. I've definitely gone ahead and done this without doing this, but this just makes it a little bit easier. What I'm doing is taking a little bit of the washer or the shoulder of the bolt off. So I'm really not changing the integrity of the bolt. I'm just clearing it, giving it basically an extra millimeter or so of clearance just to slip along the side of the body. As you can see now, the bolt just slips right on through. So we just push it up on there and remove the control arm. Quick look at these SBC upper control arms. Basically they have this indexing plate or washer. That way we can rotate it and give this basically positive or negative caster. I'm setting mine up in the 0 or basically neutral position, and we're going to test it out from here and see how it aligns. We can now go ahead and install the new upper control arm and reinstall that long bolt. Let's go ahead and torque that down to 85 foot-pounds. Then attach the ABS bracket again with the 10 mil bolt. You'll want to make sure you go ahead and bend the body back. If you've marked the paint in any way, maybe spray some touch-up paint on there or something like that. Go ahead and reinstall the harnesses and put those splash shields back in place. Undo the 3 14mm nuts on the top of the strut assembly. Go ahead, remove those completely. Lastly, go ahead and undo the bottom bolt here. Then the strut assembly is essentially free and ready to remove. Like I mentioned in the beginning of the video, if the sway bar is completely free, you can bend it right out of the way and rest the upper control arm on it, and you're free to remove the strut assembly. Since my truck was basically brand new, I went ahead and reused the factory strut mount. So there's the hardware for the top, and this is what the strut looks like. So it's going to come with one extra bushing and washer that we're not going to need to reuse. So as you can see inside the strut mount, there's already bushing there. We slide it on, then we're going to go ahead and add a bushing to the top, the washer, and the nut. Now of course I'm just doing this for demonstration purposes. The spring is not installed here. We're going to go to the spring compressor and we're going to get this all installed. Now I'm loading up the spring in the spring compressor, putting in the strut mount on top of the spring. Going to compress the complete assembly, then slide the strut up from the bottom, put the bushing, the washer, and the nut on and tighten it down, and we are ready to install it into the truck. Well, I would say if you've come this far, you can pretty much handle it on your own from here. So let's get that strut installed. We're going to put the 3 nuts on the top, the main large nut on the bottom of the strut. We're going to attach the upper ball joint back to the steering knuckle and the sway bar end link, of course, and make sure, anything else that we've undone, we put that all back together, make sure it's tight, make sure it's torqued, nothing's going to fall apart, and basically away we go. We're going to do the same thing on the opposite side, and the front's done. So let's move on to the next step. Now I'm going to go ahead and install the front diff drop bushings. So let's start off by removing the front splash shield. Then we need to undo the 2 long bolts holding the front differential to the bracket. This part's actually really quite simple. So we're going to be using the new supplied bolt, slide the washer and the big washer on, and put the bushings through in between and basically tighten it back up. Quick look with the diff spacers in, and we're all done. We'll go ahead and put the splash shield back on with the supplied bolt spacers as well. For the rear shocks, we're going to remove the lower bolt. And let's do this on both sides. From there, let's go ahead and undo the emergency brake hold down guide bracket. Then we'll need to remove the top portion of the shock or the shock nut, and we'll need to hold that with either some pliers or an adjustable wrench and undo that nut and remove the shocks from the truck. So the kit that I ordered does come with complete rear leaf springs. So we're going to swap those out. First thing I'll do is I'm going to loosen the U-bolts on one side and support the rear differential, and then on the opposite side I will completely remove the U-bolts and bracket. To remove the leaf spring, essentially it's just two bolts. One on the front that I didn't actually show, but it looks exactly just like this one, and it just comes out. On the left rear, this bolt will contact the tire. You know, we spent some time, we pried it out, but if you wanted, you could just lower down your spare tire. It would make it a little bit simpler. So here we are, we're going to install the new leaf spring. So we're just going to slide it into position and put the two bolts back through and tighten it down. Now that the leaf is in, we can install the bump stop, the new U-bolts, the bracket, and loosely put on the nuts until we've done both sides. Once you install the leaf springs on both sides, you can go ahead and torque everything down. You'll want to torque these U-bolts to 52 foot-pounds. Here I'm going to show you a couple of things that sort of weren't listed in any of the kits or anything like that. These e-brake cables, what I did was the mounting clamp, I ended up by repositioning it to add a tiny bit of slack down to the end. So I've just reclamped it and then rebolted it down. Now, because the leaf pack is slightly different, the bolt for this bracket will bottom out into the leaves. So in order to avoid that, I just added a couple of washers just to space it out so we can continue to use the same bolt. This is the brake hose bracket on top of the differential, so I wanted to space that out a little bit. So what I did was found myself a longer bolt and a few metal spacers that I had kicking around the shop, and just extended it by about an inch. Last but not least, we have to install our two shocks. So pretty simple. We got our bushings on there. Go ahead and put it into the holder at the top, and in the bottom, install the bolt, tighten that down, and tighten down the nut at the top as well. And that's it for the rear suspension. Just a quick look around here, make sure you've tightened everything down, and we are almost on to the fun part. Now for the fun part, let's go ahead and get the wheels and tires mounted. Got some Fuel Off-Road 17-inch Covert wheels, bronze with the black lip. Throw on the TPMS sensor, mount the tires, and let's balance them up and get them on the truck. I didn't include any of the alignment stuff in the video, but here you can have a quick look at my specs. I'm pretty happy with the way it turned out. It looks really good. Well, after a long night, it's all done, and I couldn't be happier. I'm so excited about this truck and just the way that it looks. Wait for a review in a couple of weeks. I'll tell you how it's riding with this Dobinson suspension. So, thanks so much for watching. Consider liking the video and subscribing to the channel. Thanks again. Bye-bye.